Wake up, Chief. I need you.
Donc on est avec Franck O'Connor, qui est franchise directeur chez 343, donc qui s'occupe de gérer toute la franchise Halo. C'est un plaisir de l'interviewer. It's a pleasure to interview you.
Good to be here.
First, little backup on your experience.
Mm-hmm.
You leave Bungie in 2008.
Yeah, something like that, maybe 7.
So to become a franchise Halo director. Since you have crafted the future of Halo, how do you live personally the close release of Halo 4?
It's been 3 years since we started development in earnest on the game, and it's been amazing to see it morph from the fairly simple ideas that we had at the start into the game it is now, and it just feels like time flew, honestly. And if you'd asked me 3 years ago what we'd hope to achieve, I think that what we'd hope to achieve was a Halo game that felt like Halo, and that would have been a pretty good goal. And coming out of E3 this year, I think we felt a little bit more confident that we were going to be able to move the needle a little bit more than that. And we won't know until November 6th and fans get it in their hands how people really feel about it, but we feel pretty good about it and we're pretty proud of it.
I feel good about it.
Thanks.
So yeah,
Thank God.
Halo 4 is certainly going to be a big hit. What's the current mood at the C43 Industries?
It depends. There's a lot of people who are still on crunch because there's people who still have to do things to prepare for launch. Obviously, the back-end services team and the sort of web services team. People like me and the marketing guys are still going to be working on this right up until it launches. But a lot of people do now finally get to take some time off. There's spaces in our parking lot for the first time in 2 years, and sometimes you can go in there at the weekend and it's pretty quiet, and we haven't seen that for months. So it feels really good. And I think people are tired, but they're excited to see it come out because this is our first game as a team. And we have a lot of AAA developers from all over the industry in the studio, but this is the first thing they've shipped together, and so there's this shared nervousness, but also sort of joy that the project is complete and that we're happy with it.
Cool. And about the transition between Bungie and 343, is Bungie was involved into the development of Halo 4?
No, they haven't had any specific involvement, but it's it's a small town, right? We're all in the Seattle and Kirkland area, and so like half of my friends are from Bungie, so it's like, and we're in the same building that they used to be in, so my commute hasn't changed. I park in the same place every day, and so in some ways it doesn't feel all that different, but we're just as gamers, we're really excited to see what they have in store, and we know that they have a tradition of innovating and making excellent games, and we expect that's exactly what they're going to do this time.
Many things have been announced at the E3 conference, like multiplayer, Spartan Ops, and the campaign. Did you wanted to impress the public and tell them that you are doing a good job? And
yeah, I don't. I mean, I've learned over the years that there's two reasons that you need to be humble and modest, and one is that if you're, firstly, it's good manners, and secondly, you might be wrong. Like, what if you think everyone thinks their baby is beautiful, right? Sometimes babies are ugly. I mean, I would never say anything, but sometimes a baby is ugly. So humility comes from sort of common sense and grounded expectations, and I think it's the correct basis to try your best and try to make the best thing that you possibly can.
Halo 4 brings a lot of new weapons and enemies. We all remember how the Flood was difficult to fight. And will the Promethean be as difficult as the Flood? Something in the same way?
I think they're very, very different than the Flood. I think the Flood was almost like the word says, it was a flood of combat, and it was this sort of endless wave. The Prometheans are very, very different. They're very strategic, they're very thoughtful, they cooperate with each other, they collaborate with each other, and you'll see that in every single instance of combat. It may be something as simple as a watcher shielding a crawler, or it could be somebody snatching your grenade out of the air and throwing it back at you, or distracting you while the crawlers come around to flank you, and so on and so on. So I think that one of the things that they add to the combat, apart from variety, is that they add surprises. And I think I used to play Legendary mode kind of as a sort of, I'd get a little bit further each time and die and learn something from it, and then I get a little bit further and hopefully learn from it or run out of ammo. This time, every time you go into an encounter, something different can happen. So you can't simply learn patterns and keep trying to beat those patterns, because the Prometheans absolutely adapt to your method of combat. So if they start to figure out that you've found a weakness, they will adapt and try and flank you.
So you have a big work on the IA?
Yeah, the AI in Halo 4 is really complex, and it's not just the addition of the Prometheans, it's the fact that they also interact with the Covenant too. And they interact in different ways. In the third mission in the game, they're fighting against each other, and they're almost ignoring you. But then as the plot progresses and as the game changes, they become allies, and they pit themselves against you, and they team up against you, and so their behaviors change even there. And so there's a lot of different variety in how the AI actually operates even amongst themselves.
You spoke of flutes a bit earlier. We had the surprise of seeing them in Halo Wars, and will they be in Halo 4? Out of the way.
So the Flood is in Halo 4, but only in multiplayer. So
Okay.
they're definitely mentioned in the story and in the plot. They obviously had a big effect on the galaxy, and we can't just pretend they never existed. But there's a new mode in PvP multiplayer where you it's really an evolution of the infection mode from the old Halo games. But this time your Spartan is actually covered in sort of flood deformity, and it's a really cool, scary new mode.
The team say on Twitter that normal difficulty will be the new heroic difficulty.
Yes,
that
that was me saying that as I got my butt handed to me for about the 30th time. Yeah, it's.
Will this mean that Halo 4 is more difficult than the other?
It is initially, because you have these new villains that you have to understand and master, and I think that once you get good at fighting the Prometheans, you start to get back into the sort of nice sort of. One of the things I like about Halo is that it's not fighting you; it's encouraging you to be cool and encouraging you to have fun. And it's not necessarily just an exercise in frustration. It tries to teach you skills, and then when you master those skills, it rewards it and sort of leads you through the game that way. And that's how this works. And so once you get good at fighting the Prometheans, in spite of the fact that they're constantly surprising you, you'll eventually learn techniques and patterns and sort of reflexes for dealing with them. And that in itself becomes really fun. And there's something really satisfying, for example, about taking out crawlers with single shots to the head. Partly because they explode, and partly because it's difficult, and learning a new skill and mastering it is really fun. But I think on balance, once you're used to fighting the Prometheans, the difficulty will flatten out again to a sort of predictable level.
And will the environment be important source of storytelling? Or, I mean, we've seen lots of fauna and flora, and what was the result of the design team?
Yeah, there's two things. One is that it's nice to explore natural feeling environments, and in our game that's everything from jungle to lava, and there's any sort of Earth-like environment that you can imagine is expressed in the game. But more importantly, we wanted to give you a sense of being in a truly alien place. It's an artificial world. The structures and the architecture literally defy gravity. And we also wanted to make it feel like Forerunner, which are used to being these abandoned relics. We wanted to make Forerunner spaces that were alive and populated and energetic. And so there's a huge amount of variety in the environments, and they absolutely play a big part in the storytelling. Yeah.
Contacts! Drop pods!
So yeah, since Halo 3 in 2007, which was just 5 years ago, we've got about one game each year, meaning like Halo Wars, Halo 3 DST, Halo Reach, and Halo Anniversary. So do you have? Do you want to continue that way, putting little games between the huge license?
So the pattern you described is more kind of an accident of scheduling than a sort of deliberate policy to do something every year. ODST was always designed to be an add-on to Halo 3, and it was a big experience in itself, but it was a side story. The Halo Reach was supposed to be the next big mainline Halo game, and it indeed was. Halo Wars is definitely a spin-off. It's in fact, it's funny because the very original Halo game, before it ever became a Mac shooter even, was designed as an RTS. And one of the programmers, a guy called Charlie Goff, was playing around with cameras and stuff for the RTS units and put one on the head of a character. And that's actually when it started to morph into an FPS. And so Halo Wars is a game I'm actually really fond of because it's a cool game and it's one of the better console RTS games, period. But it's also a kind of fun way to return to what the roots of Halo originally was. But we don't have a plan to necessarily annualize the game. And in fact, it's really important to us that when we release a big game like Halo 4, that we continue to support that through its life cycle with obviously new map packs and good matchmaking systems and so on. But we have no plans to make a Halo game every year just for the sake of doing that.
So last one. Could you give us an exclusivity? Even a small one?
Nothing that wouldn't already be out by the time your guys' embargo is up. Did you try the Mantis yet?
No.
In Valhalla?
No.
Oh, well, it's out there in the war games. You guys should check it out.
Okay.
That's really cool.
And do you have
press the B button when you're in the Mantis for a special move.
Do you have a message for the Halo.fr visitor?
Yeah, I mean, we've always had a really good relationship with the French community. They're very passionate, very vocal, and very energetic community. And we the same thing we'd say to them every time we launch a game. We can't wait to see you guys online on November 6th. We'll go vote first, but then we'll come back and play. And yeah, I hope they like Spartan Ops, and I hope that they like the multiplayer experience, and I hope they feel that this is a Halo game that respects the legacy of the games and the technology that's gone before it.
Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
And see you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Goodbye.